Have you ever been judged by your appearance? Ever felt invisible in a room full of people who think they're better than you? Today's story will make you question everything you think you know about success, privilege, and the masks people wear. This is the true account of a single mother, a powerful CEO, and a twist that nobody saw coming. Stay until the end, because what happens will leave you absolutely speechless. Before we begin, tell us in the comments, where are you watching from? We love hearing from our global community, and if you enjoy stories that challenge your perspective and touch your heart, hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications. Trust me, you don't want to miss what we have coming next. These stories will stay with you long after the video ends. Now, let's dive in. The late afternoon sun cast long shadows across the marble lobby of the Whitmore Academy, one of Manhattan's most exclusive private schools. Through the floor-to-ceiling windows, the autumn leaves of Central Park painted the skyline in shades of amber and gold. Inside, the air hummed with the quiet superiority that only old money could buy. Sarah Mitchell pushed through the heavy glass doors, her worn sneakers squeaking against the polished floor. She was 20 minutes late for pickup, and her heart hammered in her chest. Her nurse's scrubs, still carrying the faint smell of hospital disinfectant, felt suddenly too bright, too common in this temple of privilege. She tucked a strand of dark hair behind her ear, aware of how out of place she must look among the designer handbags and tailored suits that typically graced these halls. The school's reception area was a statement in understated wealth. Leather chairs that probably cost more than Sarah's monthly rent. Abstract art that she didn't understand but knew was expensive. And mothers, lots of mothers, dressed in Chanel and Prada, their highlighted hair perfectly blown out, their manicured nails catching the light as they typed on the latest iPhone models. Sarah approached the front desk where Mrs. Pemberton, the school's administrative director, sat like a gatekeeper to an exclusive club. The woman's silver hair was pulled back in a tight bun, and her reading glasses hung from a pearl chain around her neck. She looked up at Sarah with the kind of expression that suggested she'd already made several judgments and found them all unfavorable. "Can I help you?" Mrs. Pemberton's tone was clipped, professional, but cold. "I'm here to pick up Emma Mitchell, 2nd grade. I'm her mother." Sarah tried to keep her voice steady, confident. Mrs. Pemberton's eyebrows rose slightly. She glanced at her computer screen, then back at Sarah with barely concealed skepticism. "I see, and you're late. We close at 4:30, Mrs. Mitchell," Sarah corrected, though the title felt hollow. There was no husband, hadn't been for 3 years, but she clung to that remnant of respectability. "I know I'm late. There was an emergency at the hospital where I work. A patient coded and I couldn't just leave." "I see." The woman's tone suggested she didn't see at all, or perhaps saw too much. "Emma's in the aftercare room, 3rd door on the left." She paused, her finger hovering over her keyboard. "I'll need to verify your identification. We have very strict security protocols." Sarah fumbled in her oversized bag, the one with the broken zipper she kept meaning to fix. She pulled out her wallet, extracted her driver's license, and slid it across the desk. Mrs. Pemberton studied it with the intensity of a customs officer, comparing the photo to Sarah's face multiple times. Behind Sarah, she could hear the whispered conversations of the other mothers, their voices carrying in the acoustically perfect space. "Is that Emma Mitchell's nanny?" "Must be. I heard her mother works constantly." "Poor thing. Imagine having a child at this school and not even having time to pick her up yourself." Sarah's cheeks burned. She wanted to turn around, to correct them, to defend herself. But what would she say? That she was indeed Emma's mother, that she worked 60-hour weeks at Mount Sinai Hospital to afford the $25,000 annual tuition, that every designer outfit they wore cost more than her monthly grocery budget. Instead, she stood silent, accepting Mrs. Pemberton's returned license with shaking hands. As she walked toward the aftercare room, Sarah passed a bulletin board announcing the upcoming fall gala. "An evening of excellence," the poster proclaimed, tickets starting at $500 per person. She swallowed hard. There would be no gala for her. There was barely enough for Emma's piano lessons. Emma was sitting in the corner of the aftercare room, her blonde curls bent over a book. At 7 years old, she was small for her age, with her mother's gray eyes and a seriousness that made Sarah's heart ache. No child should be that serious, that aware of being different. "Mommy!" Emma's face lit up when she saw Sarah, and for a moment, everything else faded away. "Hey, sweetheart. I'm so sorry I'm late." Sarah knelt down, pulling her daughter into a tight hug. "It's okay. I knew you'd come." Emma's faith was absolute, unwavering, and it made Sarah want to cry. They gathered Emma's backpack and lunchbox, said goodbye to the aftercare supervisor, and headed back through the lobby. Sarah kept her head down, trying to be invisible, But invisibility was a luxury she couldn't afford. Near the main entrance, a group of mothers had formed what Sarah privately called the committee. They stood in a loose circle, their shopping bags from Bergdorf and Saks resting against their legs, their voices carrying with the confidence of people who never questioned their right to be heard. "I'm just saying," one of them, a blonde woman in a cream-colored pantsuit, was holding court. "Standards are slipping. You can tell by who they're letting in now." "Catherine, be fair," another woman responded, though her tone suggested she wasn't particularly interested in fairness. "The school needs diversity for their accreditation. Diversity is one thing, but there's a difference between diversity and desperation." Catherine's eyes swept the lobby and landed directly on Sarah and Emma. "I mean, look at that. The help picking up children. Next thing you know, they'll be at the parent-teacher conferences." Sarah felt Emma's hand tighten in hers. Her daughter might be young, but she wasn't deaf. She understood enough. Sarah wanted to keep walking, to preserve her daughter's dignity and her own. But something snapped inside her. All the double shifts, all the times she'd chosen between paying the electric bill or buying Emma new shoes, all the sacrifices that these women would never understand or appreciate, rose up in her throat like bile. She stopped walking, turned around, made eye contact with Catherine. "I'm not the help," Sarah said, her voice carrying across the lobby. "I'm Emma's mother, and I work as a trauma nurse at Mount Sinai. So yes, I'm wearing scrubs because I spent the last 12 hours saving lives, including possibly someone in your family, since we don't ask for tax returns before we treat patients in the ER. The lobby fell silent. Even Mrs. Pemberton looked up from her computer. Catherine's face cycled through surprise, embarrassment, and then hardened into something uglier. "Well, regardless of your profession, perhaps you should consider whether you can truly provide the environment a Whitmore student needs. This isn't just about tuition. It's about involvement, about being present, about understanding what this institution represents." "What it represents." Sarah's laugh was sharp, bitter. "Let me tell you what I see. I see parents who write checks and think that's parenting. I see kids raised by nannies who know them better than their own mothers. I see privilege so thick it blinds you to what actually matters." "Sarah," a deep voice cut through the tension. Everyone turned. Standing near the entrance, having apparently witnessed the entire exchange, was a man in an impeccably tailored charcoal suit. He was in his mid-30s, tall and commanding, with dark hair touched with gray at the temples, and eyes that seemed to take in everything. There was something familiar about him, but Sarah couldn't place it through the haze of her anger and humiliation. He walked toward them with the kind of confidence that came from never having been told no. But unlike the mothers around him, there was no judgment in his expression. Instead, there was something else. Recognition. Respect. "I'm sorry," he said, addressing the group but looking at Sarah. "I couldn't help but overhear. And I have to say, Mrs. Mitchell, is it?" Sarah nodded, confused. "I have to say that you're absolutely right." He turned to Catherine and her friends. "My daughter attends this school because I believe in education, not exclusion. And if the measure of a parent is their presence in their child's life, despite impossible circumstances, then Mrs. Mitchell here is doing a hell of a lot better than most of us." Catherine's mouth opened and closed like a fish. "Mr. Whitmore, I didn't realize you were Whitmore." Sarah's stomach dropped. This was Alexander Whitmore, as in Whitmore Academy, as in the Whitmore Foundation, as in one of the wealthiest men in New York. He offered Sarah a slight smile. "Guilty, though I prefer Alex when I'm not in the boardroom." He gestured toward the door. "Mrs. Mitchell, would you and Emma like to walk out together? I'm headed to pick up as well." Sarah didn't know what to say. She was still processing the fact that Alexander Whitmore, CEO of Whitmore Industries and heir to a multi-billion-dollar fortune, had just defended her against the very people who probably golfed with his family. Yes, thank you." They walked out together, Emma between them, chattering about her day with the resilience of children who bounce back faster than adults. Behind them, Sarah could hear the stunned silence giving way to furious whispers. Outside, the October air was crisp, carrying the smell of roasting chestnuts from a nearby cart. The city was coming alive with the evening rush, taxis honking, people hurrying toward the subway, the eternal symphony of New York. "I'm parked just down the block," Alex said, "but I wanted to apologize for what you experienced in there. It's not your fault." Sarah stopped, turning to face him. "But thank you for saying something. You didn't have to." "Yes, I did." His expression was serious. "My grandfather founded that school on the principle that excellence should be measured by character, not bank accounts. Somewhere along the way, people forgot that." He paused. "You're a trauma nurse?" "Yes, Mount Sinai. 10 years now. Then you're the kind of person who actually makes a difference in the world. He glanced at Emma, who was watching them with curious eyes. Your daughter's lucky to have you. Sarah felt tears prickling. She'd been holding it together for so long. And this unexpected kindness from a stranger, from someone who had no reason to care, was threatening to break down her walls. Thank you, she managed. That means more than you know. Alex reached into his pocket and pulled out a business card. If you ever need anything, or if anyone at the school gives you trouble, please call me. I mean that. Sarah took the card, feeling the weight of expensive cardstock between her fingers. I don't understand why you're helping me, because 3 years ago I was in your shoes. His voice was quiet, meant only for her. Not the financial part, obviously, but the single parent part. My wife died suddenly. Aneurysm. One day she was there, the next she wasn't. And I had a 4-year-old daughter who needed me, and a company to run. And I was drowning. People judged. They questioned whether I could do both. Some suggested I hire a full-time nanny and focus on work. I'm so sorry, Sarah whispered. Thank you. My point is, I understand. And I know that the hardest battles are the ones we fight alone, the ones nobody sees. He smiled, and it was warm, genuine. You're not alone, Sarah. Not anymore. Before she could respond, a black SUV pulled up to the curb and a driver stepped out. Mr. Whitmore, your daughter is ready. That's my cue. Alex shook Sarah's hand, then bent down to Emma's level. It was very nice to meet you, Emma. Keep taking care of your mom, okay? Emma nodded seriously. Okay. They watched him go, watched him open the door to reveal a little girl with dark braids who threw her arms around his neck. He held her like she was the most precious thing in the world, and Sarah felt her chest constrict. Mommy, Emma said as they started walking toward the subway. Is he a prince? Sarah laughed, the tension finally breaking. No, sweetheart, just a nice man. But as they descended into the subway, Sarah thought about Alex's words, about not being alone. She looked at the business card in her hand. Alexander Whitmore, CEO, Whitmore Industries. Below that, a cell phone number written in pen. She tucked it carefully into her wallet, not knowing that 24 hours from now, everything in her life would change. The next morning started like any other. Sarah's alarm went off at 5:30 a.m., dragging her from restless dreams into the gray pre-dawn light filtering through her bedroom curtains. She lay there for a moment, staring at the water stain on the ceiling that the landlord kept promising to fix, listening to the familiar symphony of the city waking up, car horns already blaring, the neighbor upstairs starting their morning workout routine, the hiss and clang of the radiator that never quite worked right. She showered quickly, standing under lukewarm water because the hot ran out after 5 minutes, got dressed in fresh scrubs, navy blue today, made coffee in the ancient coffee maker that sputtered and hissed but still worked. In the tiny kitchen, she prepared Emma's lunch, peanut butter and jelly because it was cheap and her daughter would actually eat it. Apple slices, a granola bar. Emma emerged from her room at 6:30, hair tangled, still half asleep. Sarah helped her get ready, brushed and braided her hair, made sure her uniform was clean. They ate breakfast together in companionable silence, oatmeal with a swirl of honey, the good kind that Sarah splurged on because Emma loved it. By 7:15, they were out the door, joining the stream of commuters, heading into Manhattan's beating heart. The subway was already packed. Bodies pressed together, everyone avoiding eye contact in that particular New York way. Sarah held Emma close, shielding her from the crush. She dropped Emma at school at 8, right on time today, and headed to the hospital for her 8:30 shift. Mount Sinai was already humming with activity. The ER never slept, never slowed. There were always more patients, more crises, more moments where life and death hung in the balance. Sarah was assigned to Bay 4, triaging incoming trauma cases, a construction worker with a head injury, a teenager with a suspected overdose, an elderly woman having a stroke. She moved through it all with practiced efficiency, her hands steady, her voice calm, even when her heart was racing. At 11:30, right in the middle of inserting an IV line, her supervisor, Dr. Martinez, appeared at her elbow. Mitchell, can I see you for a moment? Sarah secured the line, gave instructions to the resident, and followed Dr. Martinez to the small office behind the nurse's station. Her stomach knotted. Getting pulled aside during shift was never good news. Had she made a mistake? Missed something? Dr. Martinez closed the door and gestured for Sarah to sit. She was a small woman, barely 5 feet tall, but she commanded respect through sheer competence and a no-nonsense attitude that Sarah had always admired. You're not in trouble, Dr. Martinez said immediately, reading Sarah's expression. But I did receive an unusual phone call this morning. From Alexander Whitmore. Sarah's breath caught. What? Yes, that was my reaction too. Dr. Martinez leaned against her desk, arms crossed. He wanted to know about your schedule, your position, Your performance reviews. I told him I couldn't discuss personnel matters without your consent, but he was very persuasive. Said he had an opportunity he wanted to discuss with you. An opportunity? He wouldn't elaborate, but Sarah, Alexander Whitmore doesn't make phone calls like that unless he's serious about something. What's going on? Sarah explained yesterday's encounter at the school, the confrontation. Alex's unexpected defense of her. Dr. Martinez listened, her expression shifting from confusion to understanding to something that might have been hope. He asked me to have you call him when you had a break, Dr. Martinez said, sliding a piece of paper across the desk. That's his direct line. And Sarah, whatever this is, don't dismiss it out of hand. Sometimes life throws us lifelines when we least expect them. Sarah took the paper, her hands trembling slightly. I don't understand what he could possibly want with me. Only one way to find out. Sarah finished her shift in a daze, going through the motions but distracted. What could Alexander Whitmore want? The business card, the phone call to her supervisor. It all felt surreal, like something happening to someone else. At 3 p.m. during her break, she found a quiet corner in the hospital cafeteria and dialed the number. He answered on the second ring. Alex Whitmore. Mr. Whitmore, this is Sarah Mitchell. You called my supervisor. Sarah, yes. Thank you for calling back. And please, it's Alex. He paused. I hope I didn't overstep by contacting Dr. Martinez. I wanted to verify something before I made you an offer. An offer? I'd like to hire you. Sarah's laugh was automatic, disbelieving. To do what? I'm a nurse, not a corporate executive. I know exactly what you are. You're someone who saves lives under pressure, someone who manages impossible situations with grace, someone who fights for what's right even when it costs you. His voice was steady, certain. My daughter Lily needs someone like that in her life. Understanding crashed over Sarah like cold water. You want me to be Lily's nanny? No, the word was firm. I want you to be Lily's companion, mentor, friend, someone who can be there when I can't, someone who understands what it's like to balance everything and still show up for your child, someone who can teach her that strength isn't about money or status, it's about character. I have a daughter of my own, Sarah said quietly. I know. Emma would be welcome. In fact, I think it would be good for Lily to have a friend her age, someone who lives in the real world, not the bubble I've tried so hard to protect her from. What about my job? Keep it if you want, or don't. The salary I'm offering is 3 times what you make now, with full benefits, and you'd have flexibility to set your own hours around Emma's schedule. You'd live in the east wing of my home, completely private, your own space. Emma would attend Whitmore Academy free of charge, obviously. Sarah couldn't breathe. 3 times her salary. No more double shifts. No more choosing between Emma's needs and their bills. No more lying awake at night calculating whether they could afford winter coats and still make rent. Why? She whispered. Why me? Because yesterday, when you stood up to those women, you showed more courage than I've seen in my boardrooms in 10 years. Because your daughter looks at you like you hung the moon, and that kind of love doesn't come from money, it comes from presence. Because Lily needs to see what real strength looks like. He paused. And because I think you need someone to see your worth, Sarah. Someone to say you don't have to do this alone anymore. Tears streamed down Sarah's face. She pressed her hand over her mouth, trying to stay quiet in the cafeteria, but the emotions were overwhelming. I don't know what to say, she managed. Say you'll meet with me. Tonight, if possible. Come to my home. Bring Emma. Meet Lily. See if this feels right. No pressure, no obligation. Just a conversation. Sarah thought about Emma's face when she came home exhausted. Thought about the water-stained ceiling and the broken zipper and the endless grind of just surviving. Thought about what it might mean to actually thrive instead. Okay, she said. We'll come. 7 p.m.? I'll send a car. No, we'll take the subway. If this is going to work, you need to understand that I don't belong in your world. I don't know how to be anything other than what I am. That's exactly why this will work. She could hear the smile in his voice. See you at 7. The Whitmore residence was not what Sarah expected. She'd braced herself for something ostentatious, some monument to wealth that would make her feel even smaller. Instead, the townhouse on the Upper East Side was elegant but understated, the kind of old money that didn't need to shout. A housekeeper answered the door. A kind-faced woman named Rosa who welcomed them warmly and led them through a foyer decorated with family photos, not expensive art. Sarah noticed them immediately, images of Alex and a beautiful woman with dark hair, both of them laughing, holding a baby. More photos showing Lily growing up, but always the same 3 faces. And then, heartbreakingly, the photos changed. Just Alex and Lily. The missing presence felt like a wound. Alex appeared at the top of the stairs, dressed casually in jeans and a sweater, looking more human than the CEO she'd met yesterday. Beside him, holding his hand, was Lily. She had her mother's dark hair, and her father's serious eyes, and she watched Sarah and Emma with careful curiosity. "Sarah, Emma, welcome." Alex descended the stairs. "Lily, this is Emma from your school, and this is her mom, Mrs. Mitchell." "Hi," Lily said shyly. "Hi," Emma responded with equal uncertainty. "Why don't you two go play?" Alex suggested. "I had Rosa set up the playroom with some games." The girls looked at each other, that universal childhood assessment, and then simultaneously nodded. Rosa led them away, leaving Sarah and Alex alone in the foyer. "Come on," Alex said. "Let's talk somewhere more comfortable." He led her to a study lined with bookshelves, a fire crackling in the fireplace despite the autumn warmth. It was a room designed for thinking, for refuge. Sarah could see herself here, and that terrified her. "So," Alex said, settling into an armchair and gesturing for Sarah to take the couch. "Questions? You must have 1,000. Why are you really doing this?" Sarah asked. "And please don't give me the PR answer. The truth." Alex looked at her for a long moment, and then he leaned forward, elbows on his knees, hands clasped. "The truth is, I'm desperate. Not financially, obviously, but emotionally, practically, as a father. I'm failing Lily. I can see it happening, and I don't know how to stop it." "You seem like a good father," Sarah said carefully. "I try. God knows I try. But I'm one person, and I'm running a Fortune 500 company. And there are days when I come home and Lily's already asleep, and I realize I haven't seen her awake in 48 hours. I have nannies, sure, good ones, but they're employees. They follow instructions. They don't love her. Not really." He stood, walked to the window, stared out at the darkening street. 3 months ago, Lily's teacher called me, said Lily had been crying at school, saying she didn't have a real family anymore, that everyone else had mommies and daddies, and she just had a daddy who was always working. And I realized I'd been so focused on providing for her, on making sure she had the best education, the best opportunities, that I'd forgotten to just be present. Sarah's chest ached. She understood that fear, that guilt. "I've interviewed a dozen candidates for a position like this," Alex continued. "Professional childcare specialists, some with degrees in early childhood education. They were all qualified. But when I met you yesterday, when I saw how you fought for Emma, how she looked at you with absolute trust and love, I knew that's what Lily needs. Not a credential, a real person. Someone who understands that children need more than schedules and activities. They need to be seen." "And if it doesn't work?" Sarah asked. "Then we part ways. No hard feelings. And I give you 3 months severance." He turned back to face her. "But I don't think it won't work. I think you and Emma could be exactly what Lily and I need. A reminder that family isn't about blood or money. It's about showing up, even when it's hard." They talked for another hour, working through the practical details. Sarah would give her 2 weeks' notice at the hospital, though she could reduce to part-time if she wanted to keep her nursing license current. She and Emma would move into the East Wing, which turned out to be essentially a private apartment within the townhouse. 3 bedrooms. Full kitchen, separate entrance if they wanted privacy. The salary was, as Alex had said, 3 times what she made now, plus health insurance that actually covered everything, not the bare minimum plan she currently struggled with, plus a stipend for clothing and incidentals, plus, and this made Sarah's eyes well up, a college fund for Emma that Alex would contribute to monthly. "You don't have to do that," Sarah protested. "I know, but if Emma's going to be part of Lily's life, part of our family, then she should have the same opportunities. It's only fair." When they finally went to check on the girls, they found them in the playroom, building an elaborate castle out of blocks, chattering away like old friends. Emma was explaining something about knights and dragons, and Lily was listening with rapt attention, asking questions, completely engaged. Sarah felt something shift in her chest. This could work. This could really work. That night, after they'd taken the subway home, after Emma had fallen asleep clutching a toy horse Lily had insisted she keep, Sarah sat in her dark kitchen and cried. Not sad tears, though there was grief in them. Grief for the woman she'd been, the one who'd done everything alone, who'd worn her exhaustion like armor, but also tears of relief, of hope, of the terrifying possibility that maybe, just maybe, life didn't have to be such a battle. She gave her notice the next day. Dr. Martinez hugged her, said she'd be missed, but understood. Her co-workers threw her a small party, wished her well, made her promise to stay in touch. The following 2 weeks passed in a blur of packing and paperwork and fielding questions from Emma, who was excited but also worried. "Will you still be my mommy?" Emma asked one night as Sarah tucked her in. "Always, baby, always. Nothing will ever change that." "And Lily's not going to be my sister?" "No, but maybe she can be your friend." "Would that be okay?" Emma considered this seriously. "Yeah, I think so. She's nice, and she has really good toys. Sarah laughed, kissed her daughter's forehead, and marveled at the resilience of children. Moving day arrived on a Saturday in late October. Alex had offered to send movers, but Sarah insisted on doing most of it herself. It felt important, symbolic somehow, to carry her old life into her new one with her own hands. The East Wing apartment was beautiful. Hardwood floors, tall windows, furniture that actually matched. Emma's room had been painted a soft purple at Sarah's request, and there was a window seat where Emma immediately curled up with a book, declaring it her new favorite spot. That first dinner together was awkward. They sat in the main dining room, a table that could seat 12, but felt enormous with just the 4 of them. Rosa had made chicken parmesan, and everyone was too polite, too careful. But then Lily knocked over her water glass, and Emma laughed, and suddenly the ice broke. They moved to the kitchen after that, ate ice cream standing around the island, and it felt more real, more possible. The days developed a rhythm. Sarah would get the girls ready for school, walk them there together, both girls chattering about their days. She'd come home and work on the household management Alex had asked her to oversee, which turned out to be less about cleaning and more about making sure there was actually food in the house, that bills got paid, that life didn't fall apart around the edges while Alex worked. Some days she'd work a shift at the hospital, keeping her skills current. Alex had been insistent about that, said she should never feel trapped. Afternoons, she'd pick up both girls, help with homework, facilitate playdates. Emma and Lily were inseparable now, 2 sides of the same coin. Emma taught Lily how to be silly, how to find joy in simple things. Lily taught Emma confidence, the kind that came from being valued. Evenings when Alex came home, they'd have dinner together, all 4 of them. Sarah learned that Alex was funny when he relaxed, that he did terrible impressions but tried anyway to make Lily laugh, that he was actually a decent cook, but never had time to prove it, that he missed his wife with an ache that never quite healed, but he was learning to live with the scar. A month passed, then 2. Sarah stopped feeling like an employee and started feeling like part of something bigger. She'd catch Alex watching her sometimes, an expression on his face she couldn't quite read, gratitude maybe, or something more complicated. One evening in December, after the girls had gone to bed, Sarah found Alex in his study, staring at a family photo. His wife's birthday had been that week, and he'd been quieter than usual. "I'm sorry," Sarah said from the doorway. "I didn't mean to intrude." "You're not." He gestured for her to come in. "I was just thinking about how different things are now, how much lighter everything feels." Sarah sat in her usual chair, the one that had somehow become hers. "Lily seems happy." "She is, more than I've seen her in years." He turned from the photo to face Sarah. "That's because of you, because of Emma. You've given us something I couldn't buy or build or achieve. You've given us family. You've given us something too," Sarah said quietly. "Stability. Security. The space to breathe instead of constantly running." They sat in comfortable silence, the fire crackling, the city humming beyond the windows. It felt right, Sarah thought, like pieces falling into place. "Sarah," Alex said, his voice careful, "I need to tell you something." Her heart jumped. "Okay." "Yesterday at the school, Catherine Morrison approached me. She's been trying to get a meeting for weeks about some fundraising committee she chairs." He paused. "She told me she'd heard that you were living here. She implied that it was inappropriate, that people were talking." Sarah's stomach sank. Of course people were talking. "She suggested that it reflected poorly on the school's reputation to have a teacher's aide living with a board member." Alex's voice was tight with anger. "I corrected her. Told her you weren't a teacher's aide. You were a registered nurse and a member of my household staff. She asked if that was all you were." "What did you say?" Sarah whispered. Alex met her eyes. "I told her it was none of her damn business. And then I told her that if she or anyone else had concerns about my personal life or the company I keep, they could take it up with the board, where I'd be happy to discuss how much money people like her spend on vanity projects, while actual educators are underpaid and undervalued. Despite everything," Sarah smiled, "I bet she loved that. She threatened to remove her daughter from the school. I told her that was her choice, but the school's mission wouldn't change to accommodate bigotry." He stood, paced. "But Sarah, I need you to know, if this situation is causing you problems, if people are making assumptions that hurt you or Emma, we can adjust. I can hire additional staff. Make it clear that—" Alex, Sarah stood too, moved to face him. "People have been making assumptions about me my entire life, that I was too young to be a mother, too poor to belong at Whitmore, Too something or not enough something else. I stopped caring about their opinions a long time ago. You shouldn't have to deal with it. Maybe not. But I also shouldn't have had to raise Emma alone, or work myself to exhaustion just to survive, or be mistaken for the help because I don't fit someone's narrow definition of what a mother should look like. Life isn't fair. But this? She gestured around them. This is the best unfairness I've ever experienced. Alex laughed, the tension breaking. The best unfairness. You know what I mean. I do. He stepped closer, and Sarah's breath caught. And I'm glad you're here, both of you. I don't know what I'd do without you anymore. The moment stretched between them, charged with something neither of them had named. Then, from upstairs, they heard Lily call out, probably a bad dream, and the spell broke. I'll go, Sarah said quickly, grateful for the excuse to flee whatever had been building. But as she climbed the stairs to comfort Lily, she couldn't shake the feeling that something had shifted tonight, that they were standing on the edge of something neither of them had planned for. Christmas came, and with it, the school's winter break. Alex took 2 weeks off, an unprecedented move that made the financial news. They spent it like a real family, ice skating at Rockefeller Center, where Alex and Sarah held hands to help the girls and forgot to let go afterward. Seeing the Nutcracker, with Emma and Lily in matching velvet dresses, their eyes wide with wonder. Building gingerbread houses in the kitchen, flour everywhere, laughter echoing through rooms that had been too quiet for too long. On Christmas morning, Sarah woke to find a small box outside her bedroom door. Inside was a simple silver necklace with a pendant shaped like a compass. The note read, "For always knowing which direction to go, even when the path is unclear. Thank you for everything, Alex." Sarah wore it every day after that. The new year brought with it a routine so comfortable it felt like they'd been living this way forever. But comfort, Sarah had learned, was often a precursor to chaos. In mid-January, on a Tuesday that started like any other, Sarah received a call while she was at the grocery store. The number was unfamiliar, but something made her answer. "Is this Sarah Mitchell?" The voice was professional, clipped. Female. "Yes, who is this?" "My name is Jennifer Hartley. I'm a reporter with the New York Chronicle. I'm doing a piece on Alexander Whitmore and his recent changes in lifestyle. I was hoping you might comment on your relationship with him." Sarah's blood ran cold. "I don't have anything to say to you. Mrs. Mitchell, please. I'm going to run this story whether you cooperate or not. It would be better if I had your side of things. People are curious about the nature of your arrangement with Mr. Whitmore. Living in his home, caring for his daughter, it raises questions about—" Sarah hung up. Her hands were shaking so badly she almost dropped her phone. She abandoned her shopping cart and headed straight home. Alex was in his study, on a video conference with Tokyo. Sarah knocked, and he must have seen something in her face because he immediately said, "Gentlemen, I need to call you back," and ended the call. "What's wrong?" Sarah told him about the reporter, about the questions, about the implication in the woman's voice that there was something improper happening. Alex's face went dark with fury. "I'll call my lawyers. They can't print unsubstantiated gossip, can't they?" Sarah sank into a chair. "Alex, think about it. A single mother moves into a wealthy widower's home. We're not related, we're not married, but we live together, raise our daughters together. Of course people are talking. Let them talk. I don't care, but I do." Sarah's voice broke. "Because it's not just about us anymore. It's about the girls. Emma's finally stable, finally happy. And Lily, God, Alex, she's thriving. What happens when this story runs and suddenly they're the subject of whispers and rumors? When kids at school start saying things, when parents look at them differently, then we'll handle it together." "How?" Sarah stood, pacing. "How do we handle it when the truth is complicated?" Alex stood too, moved toward her. "What do you mean?" Sarah knew she shouldn't say it, knew it would change everything. But the words came anyway, pulled from some deep place she'd been denying for months. "I mean that somewhere along the way, this stopped being just a job for me, that I look forward to you coming home every night, that I notice when you smile at something I said, that I feel guilty because I'm supposed to be here for Lily, but I'm starting to realize I'm here for you too, and that's not what we agreed to. That's not professional. That's not—" Alex kissed her. It wasn't tentative or questioning. It was certain, desperate, like he'd been holding back for as long as she had. His hands came up to frame her face, and Sarah melted into him, into the rightness of it, even though every logical part of her brain was screaming that this was a mistake. When they broke apart, both breathing hard, Alex rested his forehead against hers. "Sarah, I've been falling for you since the day you stood up to Catherine Morrison, maybe even before that, when I saw you walk into that lobby wearing scrubs and looking terrified but doing it anyway. You're the strongest person I've ever met, and the kindest, and I think I'm in love with you. Alex, I know it's complicated. I know people will talk. I know it might cause problems. But I also know that I haven't felt this alive, this hopeful, since before Laura died. You've brought light back into my life, into Lily's life. And if that means facing down reporters and gossips and anyone else who has an opinion, then that's what we'll do. Sarah wanted to believe him. God, how she wanted to. But reality was insistent, demanding to be heard. What if it ruins everything? What if the girls get hurt? What if we're happy? Alex countered. What if we build something real here? What if we stop apologizing for finding joy after loss? Before Sarah could answer, they heard the front door open. The girls, home from their playdate with Rosa. We'll talk about this later, Alex said. But Sarah, I meant what I said. Every word. The next 2 days were torture. Sarah and Alex moved around each other like magnets, drawn together but constantly interrupted by reality. The girls needed attention. Work demanded Alex's time. And hanging over everything was the impending article. It ran on Thursday. Front page of the lifestyle section. Billionaire's new life. Alexander Whitmore finds family after tragedy. The article itself wasn't as salacious as Sarah had feared. It presented the facts largely without judgment. Alex had hired Sarah, a trauma nurse and single mother, to care for his daughter. They were living as a blended household, two single parents finding unconventional solutions to the challenges of raising children alone. But the photos, someone had taken photos of them at Rockefeller Center, holding hands, at the Nutcracker, sitting close together, walking through Central Park with the girls, looking for all the world like a family. The comments section online was vicious, gold digger, opportunist. How convenient that a poor nurse landed in a billionaire's home. Some people defended them, but the cruel voices were louder, more persistent. Sarah called in sick to the hospital, couldn't face anyone, stayed in her room, curtains drawn, while the world outside judged her for wanting something good in her life. Alex knocked on her door that evening. Sarah, please, let me in. She opened it, and he took one look at her face and pulled her into his arms. I'm sorry, he said into her hair. I'm so sorry. I should have protected you better. I should have. It's not your fault. Sarah's voice was muffled against his chest. I knew this could happen. I just didn't think it would hurt this much. Come downstairs, please. The girls made dinner. Well, Rosa supervised, but they helped. And Lily's worried about you. That got Sarah moving. She couldn't let Lily see her like this. Couldn't let either of the girls think they were the cause of this. In the kitchen, Emma and Lily had indeed helped make dinner. Spaghetti, sauce everywhere, but made with love. They'd even set the table with candles. We wanted to cheer you up, Emma said, hugging Sarah tight. Because you seemed sad, Lily added. Sarah felt tears threatening again, but these were different. These were tears of gratitude for these two remarkable little girls who saw her sadness and wanted to fix it. They ate dinner together, the four of them, and talked about everything except the article. About school, about an upcoming science project, about whether dinosaurs would have liked pizza. Normal things. Beautiful things. After the girls went to bed, Sarah and Alex sat in the study again. This room had become their space, where they could be honest. I talked to my PR team today, Alex said. They want to issue a statement, something about my private life being private, about how grateful I am for Sarah's presence in Lily's life. Will that help? Probably not. But it might make me feel better. He turned to face her. Sarah, I need to know what you want, not what you think you should want, or what's practical, or what's safe. What do you actually want? Sarah had been asking herself that question for days, and the answer, terrifying as it was, had become clear. I want this, she said. I want us. I want the girls to keep being sisters in everything but name. I want to wake up knowing you're down the hall. I want dinner together, and movie nights, and arguing about whose turn it is to load the dishwasher. I want all of it. Even the scary parts. Then we'll have it. Alex took her hands. But Sarah, I need you to understand something. This can't stay the way it is. Living together, raising the girls together, but existing in this limbo where we're not quite anything. It's not fair to you, and it's not fair to them. What are you saying? Alex stood, walked to his desk, and returned with a small box. Sarah's heart stopped. I'm saying I want to make this real, legal, official. He opened the box to reveal a ring, elegant and understated. A single diamond on a platinum band. I'm saying I want to marry you, Sarah Mitchell. Not because it's convenient or because it will quiet the gossips, though it will do both of those things, but because I love you, because you've made me believe in second chances, because I want to spend the rest of my life with someone who sees me as just Alex, not Alexander Whitmore, CEO. Sarah stared at the ring, at Alex's face, at the future being offered to her like a gift she'd never dared imagine. "That's crazy," she whispered. "We've only known each other 4 months." "I know. It's completely insane. And if you say no, I'll understand. We can keep things as they are, or we can figure out a different arrangement. But Sarah, when you know, you know, and I know." Sarah thought about every moment that had led them here. The humiliation in the school lobby that had somehow been the beginning of everything. The kindness from a stranger who saw her when she felt invisible. The slow building of trust and affection, and something deeper than either of them had anticipated. She thought about Emma, who laughed more now, who wasn't afraid to take up space. About Lily, who'd had a mother's love again, even if it came from an unexpected source. About the family they'd built from broken pieces and hope. "Ask me," Sarah said. Alex knelt, taking her left hand in both of his. "Sarah Mitchell, will you marry me? Will you be my wife, Lily's mother, Emma's champion, and my partner in all things? Will you take this crazy leap with me and see where we land?" "Yes," the word came out clear and certain. "Yes, I'll marry you." Alex slipped the ring onto her finger, and then he was kissing her again. And Sarah was laughing and crying at the same time, overwhelmed by the impossibility of it all. They told the girls the next morning at breakfast. Emma and Lily looked at each other, then back at Sarah and Alex, and burst into cheers. "Does this mean we're going to be real sisters?" Emma asked. "Real as it gets," Alex confirmed. "Can I call you Dad?" Emma's voice was small, hopeful. Alex's eyes filled with tears. "I would be honored." "And can I call you Mom?" Lily asked Sarah. Sarah knelt down, pulling Lily into a hug. "Sweetheart, you can call me whatever you're comfortable with, but I promise I'll always be here for you, whatever name you use." "I want to call you Mom," Lily decided, "because that's what you are." They planned a small ceremony at the townhouse, just family and close friends. No media, no spectacle. Rosa helped with arrangements, secretly thrilled to be part of a love story. The school gossip continued for a while, but it was harder to sustain rumors when the truth was out in the open. Sarah and Alex were getting married. It was real, it was legal, and it was nobody's business but theirs. Catherine Morrison did pull her daughter from Whitmore Academy, making a dramatic announcement about declining standards. 3 other families followed. Alex told the board he wouldn't lose sleep over it, and neither should they. 6 weeks after Alex's proposal, on a Saturday in March with early spring sun streaming through the windows, Sarah Mitchell became Sarah Whitmore. She wore a simple ivory dress, held a bouquet of tulips, and cried through her vows. Emma and Lily were flower girls, walking down the makeshift aisle together, holding hands, giggling at some private joke. They'd written their own vows, promising to be the best sisters ever, and to always share their toys, and to help their parents when they got old. It was perfect, small and intimate and utterly theirs. At the reception, while the girls were occupied with cake, Dr. Martinez pulled Sarah aside. "I'm proud of you," she said. "You took a chance on happiness, and you deserved it." "I'm terrified," Sarah admitted. "What if I'm not good at this? What if I mess up his life?" "Sarah, you've been a single mother working impossible hours and raising an incredible daughter. You've been a trauma nurse saving lives under pressure. You've survived judgment and hardship, and keep showing up with grace. You'll be fine." Dr. Martinez smiled. "Besides, I've seen how that man looks at you, like you're the answer to every question he didn't know he was asking." The girls fell asleep during the car ride home, exhausted from excitement. Alex carried Lily upstairs while Sarah carried Emma, both of them tucking their daughters into their beds. In the hallway between the rooms, they met in the middle. "So, Mrs. Whitmore," Alex said, pulling her close, "how does it feel?" Sarah thought about the journey that had brought her here, the struggles, the fear, the moment in that school lobby when she'd felt so small, and then the unexpected kindness, the slow building of trust, the family that had formed from the most unlikely circumstances. "It feels like coming home," she said. That night, lying in bed with Alex beside her, Sarah thought about the person she'd been 4 months ago. That woman could never have imagined this life, could never have believed that standing up for herself would lead to standing beside someone who saw her worth. But then she thought about what Alex had said that first day, about not being alone anymore, and she realized that was the real gift. Not the money or the security or the townhouse, but the simple, profound truth that she didn't have to carry everything by herself anymore. She had a partner. She had family. She had love, and for the first time in years, Sarah let herself believe that maybe, just maybe, she deserved all of it. The morning after the wedding, Sarah woke to sunlight streaming through unfamiliar windows. For a moment, she was disoriented, and then she remembered. The guest room where she'd been sleeping was no longer hers. She was in the master bedroom now, in Alex's bed, wearing his ring. She turned to find Alex already awake, watching her with a soft smile. "Good morning, wife," he said. Sarah laughed. "That's going to take some getting used to." They lay there for a while, savoring the quiet before the girls woke and life resumed its hectic pace. But this was different now. They were different. "I need to tell you something," Alex said, his tone shifting to something more serious. Sarah's stomach clenched. "Okay, I know this all happened fast. I know there are people, maybe even people you care about, who think you married me for money or status or whatever they want to believe." He took her hand. "But I need you to know something. 3 weeks ago, I had my lawyer draw up a post-nuptial agreement." Sarah's heart sank. Of course there would be paperwork, legal protections, boundaries on what she could access or claim. "It's okay," she said quietly. "I understand. You have to protect yourself and Lily." "Sarah, stop." "That's not what this is." Alex sat up, pulling her with him. "The agreement states that you have full access to all marital assets. No restrictions. That if something happens to me, you inherit everything, including the company. That Emma is legally recognized as my daughter and heir, same as Lily." Sarah stared at him. "What?" "No, Alex, that's not. It also includes a trust for you personally. $5 million, separate from everything else. That's yours, no matter what happens. If we get divorced, if you decide you want to leave, if I turn out to be terrible at being a husband, that money is yours. Untouchable by me or my estate or anyone else. Why would you do that? Because I need you to know that you're not dependent on me, that you're choosing to be here, not trapped here, that if you stay, it's because you want to, not because you need to." His voice was thick with emotion. "You've spent your whole life having to be strong because you had no choice. I want to give you the choice, the freedom to leave if you need to, which hopefully means when you stay, I'll know it's real." Sarah was crying now, overwhelmed by the thoughtfulness, the respect, the understanding of what she needed even before she knew it herself. "You're ridiculous," she said, but she was smiling through the tears. "I don't want your money, Alex. I never did." "I know. That's exactly why you're getting it." The sound of small feet running in the hallway interrupted them. The door burst open, and Emma and Lily tumbled in, still in their pajamas. "Are you awake? Can we make pancakes? Are we a real family now?" Alex laughed, pulling both girls onto the bed. "Yes to all of the above." They made pancakes together in the kitchen, a chaotic affair with batter on the ceiling and syrup everywhere. Rosa came in, took one look at the mess, and started laughing. "This house has needed this for too long," she said. "Real family chaos." The weeks that followed settled into a new normal. Sarah officially left the hospital, though she volunteered one Saturday a month in the ER to keep her skills sharp. She discovered she loved the freedom to actually be present, to pick up both girls every day, to attend school functions without checking her schedule first. But she also discovered she needed something that was hers. The household management was fine, but it wasn't enough. So she started exploring options. One evening, she mentioned to Alex that she'd been looking into non-profit work. "There's a clinic in the Bronx, serves low-income families. They're desperate for nurses, especially ones with trauma experience. I thought maybe I could volunteer there a few days a week." "You don't need my permission, Sarah. This is your life too, I know. But I wanted to talk about it. Make sure we're on the same page about schedules and the girls and everything." They worked it out. Sarah would volunteer at the clinic Tuesdays and Thursdays while the girls were in school. Alex would make sure he was home by 6 on those nights. They'd hire a part-time helper to handle some of the household things Sarah had been doing. The clinic was in a rough neighborhood, the kind of place where Sarah's experience as a trauma nurse was desperately needed. She treated gunshot wounds, overdoses, infections that should have been handled weeks ago but couldn't afford to be. She met mothers who reminded her of herself, exhausted and scared but showing up anyway, and she felt useful again, not just as a mother or a wife, but as herself. One Thursday in April, Sarah was treating a young mother, maybe 22, with a baby who had a fever. The woman was terrified, couldn't afford the emergency room, had been trying home remedies that weren't working. Sarah examined the baby, determined it was a simple ear infection, got antibiotics from their limited supply, and took time to show the mother how to administer them. "Thank you," the woman said, tears in her eyes. "You don't know what this means. I was so scared." Sarah thought about herself 5 months ago, scared and alone and trying to do everything right. "I know exactly what it means, and you're a good mother. Don't let anyone tell you different." She went home that night feeling centered, purposeful. Alex was in the kitchen with the girls, attempting to help with homework and only moderately succeeding. "How was your day?" he asked, kissing her cheek. "Perfect," Sarah said, and she meant it. But perfection, as Sarah had learned, was fragile. In May, 6 weeks after the wedding, Sarah missed her period. She didn't think much of it at first. Stress, new medications, change in routine, but then she missed a second one. She took a pregnancy test in secret. Early one morning, while everyone else was asleep, watched the second line appear with a mixture of joy and terror. She was pregnant. Sarah sat on the bathroom floor, test in hand, trying to process. This wasn't planned. They'd been careful, but apparently not careful enough. Or maybe the universe had its own timeline. She knew she needed to tell Alex, but fear held her back. What if he wasn't ready? What if adding another child to their blended family was too much? What if he thought she'd done this on purpose? For 3 days, she carried the secret alone, making excuses for her queasiness, her exhaustion. But on the 4th day, Alex cornered her in the study. "What's wrong?" he asked without preamble. "And don't say nothing. I know you, Sarah. Something's bothering you." She could have lied, could have bought herself more time, but they'd built this relationship on honesty, on trust. "I'm pregnant," she said. Alex's face went through a series of expressions too quickly to track. Surprise, uncertainty, and then finally a slow smile. "Pregnant, as in, we're having a baby." "Yes, I know we didn't plan this. I know it's complicated with Emma and Lily and everything else. And if you need time to process, I understand." Alex pulled her into his arms, holding her so tight she could barely breathe. "Sarah, this is incredible. Unexpected, yes, but incredible." "You're not upset." "Upset. I'm terrified. I'm thrilled. I'm pretty sure I'm going to be terrible at the newborn stage again because I barely remember it with Lily. But upset? No. Never." They told the girls that weekend. Emma and Lily's reactions were priceless, screaming with excitement, already arguing about whether it would be a boy or girl, making plans for how they'd help. "We're going to be big sisters," Emma announced to anyone who would listen. The pregnancy progressed smoothly. Sarah experienced morning sickness that lasted all day for the first trimester. But Alex was attentive, bringing her crackers and ginger tea, rubbing her back, never complaining about the late-night wakings. They decided to wait until 20 weeks to find out the sex. The ultrasound revealed a healthy baby boy, and Alex cried watching the screen, overwhelmed by the miracle of it. "A son," he said, voice thick. "We're having a son." Sarah's due date was set for mid-December. As summer turned to fall, her belly grew, and their lives adjusted to accommodate the coming change. They converted one of the spare rooms into a nursery, painted soft gray with white trim. Emma and Lily helped choose decorations, carefully placing stuffed animals and books on the shelves. In October, almost exactly a year after Sarah had walked into that school lobby feeling invisible and judged, Whitmore Academy held its fall gala, the same one Sarah had seen advertised that first day, the one she never imagined attending. This time, she walked in on Alex's arm, wearing a maternity gown that actually fit, her ring catching the light, her head held high. Catherine Morrison was there, of course. She'd transferred her daughter back after the scandal died down, unable to resist the prestige of the Whitmore name. When she saw Sarah, pregnant and radiant, standing beside Alex like she belonged there because she did, something flickered across Catherine's face. Recognition, maybe, or regret. "Sarah," Catherine said, approaching with fake warmth. "You look well. Congratulations on the pregnancy." "Thank you," Sarah said, keeping her voice neutral. "I hope there are no hard feelings about last year. I may have been hasty in my judgment." Sarah looked at this woman who had tried to make her feel small, who had questioned her worth based on her appearance and profession, and she felt nothing. No anger, no need for revenge. Just pity for someone whose world was so narrow. "No hard feelings," Sarah said. "We all make mistakes." Later, slow dancing with Alex while her belly pressed against him, Sarah reflected on how much had changed. Last year, she'd been struggling to survive. This year, she was thriving. "What are you thinking about?" Alex asked. "About how different everything is. About how one moment, one decision to stand up for myself, changed the entire trajectory of my life." "Do you regret it? Any of it?" Sarah looked around the ballroom, at Emma and Lily dancing together, giggling at some private joke, at the life they'd built from the wreckage of 2 separate losses, at the future growing inside her. "Not even for a second," she said. Their son, Daniel Alexander Whitmore, was born on December 18th, during a snowstorm that blanketed Manhattan in white. Sarah's labor was long but uncomplicated, and when they finally placed the baby in her arms, she looked into his tiny face and saw the future. Emma and Lily met their brother the next day, both girls awestruck by the tiny human they'd been waiting for. They took turns holding him carefully, making promises to protect him and teach him everything they knew. Alex sat beside Sarah's hospital bed, one arm around her, the other hand gently touching Daniel's impossibly small fingers. "Thank you," he said quietly. For what? For saying yes. That night in the study when I asked if you'd take this crazy leap with me, for trusting me, for building this family, for being brave enough to believe in second chances. Sarah leaned her head on his shoulder, exhausted and happy, and so full of love she thought she might burst. I should be thanking you, she said. You saw me when I felt invisible. You offered me a life I didn't dare dream of. You loved me when I didn't think I was worth loving. You were always worth loving, Sarah. You just needed someone to show you. They brought Daniel home 2 days before Christmas. The townhouse had been transformed by Rosa and the girls. Decorations everywhere. A massive tree in the living room. Stockings hung by the fireplace with Daniel's name already embroidered on one. That first night home, after the girls were asleep, and Daniel was finally settled in his bassinet. Sarah stood at the nursery window looking out at the snowy city. Alex came up behind her, wrapping his arms around her, careful of her still healing body. What are you thinking about? He asked. About that day in the school lobby, about how humiliated I felt, how small, about how I thought my life would always be a struggle, that I'd always be on the outside looking in. And now I realize that moment was a gift, because it led me here, to you, to this family, to a life I never imagined possible. She turned in his arms to face him. I'm not saying the struggle was worth it exactly. I wouldn't wish that kind of hardship on anyone. But I'm saying that sometimes the worst moments lead us to the best places. I love you, Sarah Whitmore. I love you too. They stood there together, watching the snow fall over their sleeping city. Their children safe and warm in the rooms around them. Their future uncertain, but bright with possibility. Sarah thought about the woman she'd been a year ago, exhausted, scared, doing everything alone. That woman would never have believed this ending was possible, would have dismissed it as a fairy tale, too good to be true. But here she was, living proof that sometimes, against all odds, life offered second chances. That kindness from strangers could change everything. That standing up for yourself, even when it felt terrifying, could open doors you didn't know existed. She thought about all the single mothers out there, working impossible hours, making impossible choices, feeling invisible and undervalued. And she wished she could tell them what she'd learned, that their worth wasn't defined by their bank accounts or their zip codes, or whether they could afford $500 gala tickets. That doing their best was enough, that they were enough. But mostly, she wished she could tell them to hold on, because you never knew when life might surprise you, when the right person might see you, really see you, and offer you a hand up instead of judgment, when the story you thought was ending might actually just be beginning. Sarah Mitchell had walked into Whitmore Academy that October day expecting nothing but to pick up her daughter. She'd walked out having met the man who would become her husband, the father of her son, her partner in building a family from broken pieces. And now, standing in the nursery of a townhouse she'd once thought belonged to a different world, with a man who loved her not despite her struggles but because of the strength they'd forged in her, Sarah understood something fundamental. Home wasn't a place or a price tag or a status symbol. Home was wherever your people were, and hers were all right here. The end.